Talks with Amit Vats, a web series of candid conversations with industry leaders and influencers. Today, we have with us a technologist with 2 decades of experience in the RE space. Pleasure to have Mr. Deepak Ushadevi, Managing Director, Sale and Terre India. Pleasure to have you, Deepak.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to have you with yours. Indeed, a real great pleasure for to have to consider this occasion, and really looking forward for your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepak. So, Deepak, you've been a veteran in the industry. What are your views on the present and future of the floating solar industry in India and current project portfolio in the floating solar segment?
Yeah, very much positive and optimistic that floating solar is finally open over here. So previously it was like a perspective, but now right, its demand is here, and considering a lot of water scarcity, evaporation issues, land issues, and then we have plenty of water bodies available over here. So right, I think the perspective-wise, it is future is there. From a curious state, we are now into a serious state of things. The current portfolio of more than 100 to 200 megawatt of floating tenders are in line now. It has been published. Some of the executions are going on. So Sailterra has been distributing the solution and developing these PV panels, floating photovoltaics, so commercial, industrial, local institutions. So we are the experts. So we are the proven solutions. We have proven solutions all over the world. So we are the pioneer and the global leader in floating solar, as you know. So if you see the portfolio-wise, we have done more than 285 projects across worldwide, across the global. We have done project executions for 32 countries right now. The plants are spread over 5 continents. So we have got 40 plus manufacturing lines globally. So 1.2 gigawatt of global installations we have done. FI 20 megawatt of installation is completed, and 670 megawatt of installation is ongoing. So if you look at that phase, right, we have done a remarkable job in this floating industry. From CTSP, Sailterra Solar India Private Limited, is the Indian subsidiary of CTI, Sailterra International. So we have it. We in 2018 we came into a year of inception in India, and then within this few years, like 4 projects we have signed. In these 3 projects, a cumulative of 21 megawatt has been commissioned in India, and the biggest project, 75 megawatt, is ongoing now. In 2020, we have completed 2 projects, which is in India. If you talk about India, which are the biggest one, 15 megawatt in Speak, which is the biggest in India, and then 5.4 megawatt West Bengal project, which we commissioned during. So all these 2 projects we commissioned during this COVID time in the previous year, 2020. During the COVID time, we have completed these things. If you see globally, right, we have done a lot of first things, like, like a 88 megawatt Changbin project, the world's largest project in sea, has been commissioned recently. Then if you see this largest PPV before that was 70 megawatt in China on a landmine. And then the thermal power plant, if you see that 5.4 megawatt. So a lot of firsts we have done globally. And as I said, right now in 3 years time, 22 megawatt we commissioned. So right now, if you see the record, 2 megawatt is the largest. So we are expecting these announcements in the upcoming days.
Great, Deepak. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the share. So Deepak, Sale and Terre being a French company and one of the global leaders into the floating solar. So what are the kind of challenges what you've been facing in India on floating solar?
So the first and foremost thing is there are no challenges. There no the floating should be float for 20. It's not about floating. It's all about floating for 25 years. So to float for 25 years, you need to have a robust design, engineering design. You need to have it. So the biggest challenge is the variation in the water level, the underwater current. This is the key challenges when it comes to anchoring and mooring, the mooring of these platforms. So you need to have a proper study on the topography, a good knowledge of engineering techniques, a bathymetric study. So these are the key studies we should do it that can solve the problem for these investors. Keeping the fundamental techniques, each site should have a different designs. So there should not be replications. This is very important when you talk about the challenges we are facing it. And then there are some companies, when I am talking to the different developers, different potential clients, they're talking about how to drain the reservoir, how we can incorporate systems without draining the reservoir. Then what about extreme weathers? Like, you have the wind, typhoons, then waves, the current, underwater currents. Then the water level variations. So when you are having a drought areas, then the waterbed, the floating system should go into touching the bottom side and come out, should have a soft landing and take off. So then obviously the saline conditions. Nowadays, a lot of, right now we are doing a 75 megawatt project, a saline environment. So you need to ensure that the rust is not there. How we can survive that? It's a big impact on the cost of the system. Then the seawater and tides will come along with that. So considering the site conditions and the available water area, we need to define the required installed capacity. Then the algae and marine growth will also impact the buoyancy part to that. So these are the few challenges I will say, right, we need to consider. So the water depth and water level variations should be fine-tuned when you do the anchoring systems. So the challenge is right now you have like underwater current, you have that wind, you have the waves, you have this gusty, this cyclone, then water level variations. All in all, you'll be having a proper anchoring and mooring system. So if you don't have a good technique into that, your investment will not be secured for 25 years. So these are the few things, like underwater anchoring. So when you talk about anchoring, it's not about this, just concrete beds. We are talking about robot anchorings and all. So this kind of things we need to take care when it comes to challenges. So we are, as I said, like more than 280 projects with this more than a decade of experience. We know how to do this, and we also know the best practices which we have cultivated over the period of years.
Thanks, Deepak. It's a very elaborative subject. I think, given some time, we would definitely rope you in for a elongated chat and a session as well. So I also wanted to know, Deepak, that as an organization, Sealant Terre, what is it contributing to the industry?
Yeah, so it's a very well-defined question. So see, if you see that merely from a perspective of floating as if we are giving an environmental benefits. So we are going into, so the scarcity of water is always there. So like, with this kind of applications, you are minimizing the water evaporations and boosting the water and ecosystems. And once you do that, you improve the water quality and reduces all this algae and all this stuff. So the erosion of reservoir tanks will be there also. So this comes from the environmental benefits we are giving as a part of an industry. Then comes the economic benefits right now. Like, so you are converting the unused areas, means that out of water bodies you are doing that. So this enhances the electricity generations and then also get clean and neat energy productions. Then the social benefits of which is the biggest is the preservation of the lands. China is the biggest in the world, but one of the biggest in the world. And then, but they are using more of like floatings because they want to preserve their land. Not only the barren land, they want to preserve all the agricultural land also. So this rehabilitates the contaminated area with clean energies. So if you look at this economic, social, and environmental benefits, we are already contributing to this industry. But if you see from the Indian perspective right now, we came out, we are being a French company, right? We are a subsidiary of a French, global company. But we over here, right, we started our own local manufacturing. So we have set up local manufacturing production. So Make in India progress. We are using 99%, 95% of the products, this raw materials, utilization of, like local, products and vendors. And we recently started an R&D. So we have got an R&D port. So we constructed an R&D port in Bangalore, and then we are doing improvisations there. An R&D team, all full of like local talents. And now, as I said, like local manufacturing, local R&Ds, and then the labs. So previously, right, all these people has to rely on accredited world-class laboratories globally. Now, right, we are building a lab over here in India so that some of the equipments are also importing to ensure that we are, giving a lot of validations, quality validations, not just, for the sake of getting some certifications. With a lot of, test methods, we are giving a genuine, genuine validations reports. So labs, the R&D ports, manufacturing, all we are doing it, plus giving a lot of, jobs to the locals. And also, right, as an organization, how we are contributing to the industry is importantly, right, we have been giving the know-how, knowledge transfers, and, presentations to all these nodal agencies, this leading EPCs, developers, about the experience and expertise of our floating solar to them. So we are not restricting ourselves. We are educating people. We are giving all kind of informations and the presentations to them to enable them to look into this floating solar as a potential new revolution in this sphere.
Great, Deepak. So we match with the vision of the country also to make in India and to educate the youth, right?
Yes, exactly.
Great. So Deepak, as per you, what are the key best practices in your experience?
So see, experience always matters, that's what I always believe. Experience when you have an experience, expertise will automatically come. So the fundamental understanding is that the design or the adaptation or the anchoring technology will be varying with locations, and you cannot give a standard a solution from this from the locker. You cannot give a standard designs. So it always design evolution will come with respect to the anchoring principles and conditions. So how you do the site conditions, again this bathymetric, the SPT, the wind speed, the wind analysis, this should be considered while making a design suit. So obviously then the site visit will be there before the design. So we will be going through the surveys of the bathymetry, soil compositions and all. So one thing is that you cannot replicate just a copy paste designs. Okay, you need to go into site to site conditions. That is important. Then another is the quality. So India is price sensitive, agree, but the asset should be protected for 25 years. You cannot go with a cheap raw material. And it's a selection of the raw materials is extremely important when it comes to this production of these floats. You should have a good UV stabilizer. If you don't have a good stabilizer, bad qualities are available in the market. You will be exposed, this product will be exposed to UV within few years, and it will not even last for 5 years. So a good practice of having good raw materials, top class UV stabilizer is important. And you should do a proper acceleration test, not like you should do a proper test and validation for this. Even if you have a good quality raw materials and UV stabilizers, one you should know is about the good quality machines. If you don't have a good quality machines, you'll not be able to achieve the uniformity, you'll not be able to achieve the consistency and the quality of the floats. Imagine the 20% of the float closed, the total float cost, it will be like around 20%, but the whole project will be sitting on the top of the floats. That means 80% of the project is sitting on this 20% of the floats. So we should be always ensure that the floats are of like good product produced, having a good quality control into that. Then the best practice, due to all these best practices, know-how and all, right, after each and 50th or 100 projects we commissioned, right, then we became a bankable solutions. So it's also an important thing. So we are talking about 80% on the top of this 20% cost price. So we have a unique master insurance program. So the floaters, apart from the guarantee we are providing the solution for the whole plant. Means if any issues are happening to panels, inverters, DC cables, VOS, or anything due to our floater design or quality issues, we are providing a compensation to that. So basically that no other product vendor will give that kind of a warranty. The panel manufacturer will give only for the panels. He will not give for the other part. So in a way, the lenders, banks have a firm confidence in our technology because we are getting from the insurance from the European banks. We are getting a firm confidence in our technology, and this is very, very unique. Obviously, that confidence comes from our credentials, track records, manufacturing capacity and expertise only. So and then the best practices of when it comes to this installation part, we need to know we are doing long-lasting installations, how we panel mountings on the float, then the technical advices giving during the construction process, then the supervisions we are doing it, so the risk and assessment. So these are all part of a project. So these all comes with a kind of an experience. And also, right, the IP infringement is one part, which we are really concerned about, right? People have to copy, but do not have that engineering idea how this kind of, calculations are derived at. There are so much of calculations engineering there. As I said, right, when anchoring, you have a robotic anchors. So in this development, a floating plant should be protected against the legal conflicts of IP matter. So then there are BKMs, best known methods, on engineering, quality, bankability aspects. So these things, right, we need to ensure that, these all the things, right, we involved each of the projects. So I think, right, I have covered a bit more on the best practical, practice which we can engage.
All this experience comes over a period of time, since you guys are pioneers into it. So all you've accumulated over a period of time, and it's a very good thing that you have a insurance bracket also to it in case something goes wrong. And obviously, what you've stated regarding validation, quality of product. So it's not just being price sensitive. We need to take care, have good quality of product as well, right? For a long lasting 25 years, what we're talking across.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Deepak. So, Deepak, since you guys have been in India for a while now and you've been into installations of megawatt projects, so what is one thing that you expect from the policymakers in India?
Yeah, not one thing, right? I have a lot of wish lists.
But then,
see, when you policymakers, right, also to ensure that, the tenders or whatever, even to an aspect of tenders, there will be you need to ensure that quality-driven solutions should be there. Not R&Ds should be there. It should be a quality-driven solution, proven solutions, and then the international standards should be incorporated. So these are the if you look at from this a tender perspective. But from a policymakers, right, what I want to wish is that as like electricity it is exempted from GST. So this IPP, the independent power producers, should be entitled for a concessional GST. Means is similar to the MNRE's previous under the VAT and CST regimes, where developers were entitled to procure BOS items using MNRE certificate on concessional rates. So this is one thing, like concessional GST part is what one is my one I would like to introduce. And second is, right, the everyone is talking about is on the reverse, instead of using the reverse auction as a mean of price discovery. We should continue to the old FITIM regime, where the tariff is being defined by this state electricity regulatory commissions. See, there are experts in this tariff. Experts are there. They will devise these tariff policies, and considering various aspects to that, and then the tariff will be adopted. But developers with this reverse option, the developers are aggressively pushing for roll tariffs to intend to win. And then projects are not viable at the end of the day because of some many reasons. So some of the projects which have been won may not continue to be viable, and if it goes to a record loss. So this is one thing, that reverse engineering, reverse auction should be removed. That is also important things. Then another thing said that the functionality of the DISCOMs. So DISCOMs, we should give, there should be an improvement in their health of DISCOMs by bringing in more rigor to ensure that IPPs are properly paid. If IPPs are not being properly paid by the DISCOMs, then IPPs are in distress mode as well. So they will not be having that viability part. So some of the DISCOMs are in bad shapes and having bad credit ratings, and that has also deteriorated their health over a period of years. So the huge accumulation of these receivables will in turn affect the concerns and the patterns of getting these IPPs workable during this period part. So that is one part. And then you see that the banks and NFCs is giving a lot of loans to this thermo, hydro and non-renewable energy based companies. Right now, right, everything has been clubbed together. So we need to ensure that the renewable energy should be in a separate book and not to club with overall energy sector, because it is exposing to the non-performing assets. So, but because as I said, right, huge thermal, hydro and the non-renewable energy-based companies has a huge debt with this banks. So the bank will take the whole aspects, and then they will limit this kind of separate benefits by passing this reliefs and loans. And then obviously the policy should be a firm policy. Okay, so the state needs to be ensured, the central government should be ensured that the developers not be in trouble each time in the change in the state government. So when the state government comes, they will try to not to adopt to the tariff. They will not agree for this tariff. So much of hiccups have happened in the recent stages. So we need to avoid that. So this will give the confidence to the IPP, the upcoming IPP part. So this is important right now. Whatever the IPPs are there, they have been respected. So how you can respect is, ensuring that now this central government is ensuring the state governments are not fiddling with this kind of IPPs. And IPPs also, and again, the tariff has been adopted not with the reverse pitch. That's where also right now we can ensure that the tariff has been given a viability to the tariff with a proper consideration of part. And then the single window clearance, there are some, in some of the Karnataka, let's say Kasama, you have Kusum, like that, like IPP, this independent producers doesn't have the burden of running through all the development, all the departments. So they can concentrate on key business, that is on do their, instead of running around these departments.